The Christian religion is by far not the oldest one, and they actually borrowed a ton of things from other religions, because it's easier to get somebody to believe in your religion if it's familiar. And one of the major tenets of Christianity is that you need to convert people to Christianity. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I commanded you. Jesus. That's a quote from Jesus. So let's start in the beginning. To avoid butchering the names here, I'm just going to use the first letter. The Persian scriptures of the Z, the Avesta, tell the story of how O created the world and the first two humans in 6 days and then rested on the seventh. The name of these two human beings were Adam and Eva. These texts date back as far as the 10th century BC. Gosh, that sounds awfully familiar. But wait, there's more in part 2. Part 2 of how the Christian religion borrowed from other religions. A man is warned of an imminent flood by a god and is instructed to build a large boat in order to survive. The dimensions of the boat are 120 cubits, the building materials are wood, pitch, and reeds, and there are 6 decks. After the flood, the boat lands on a mountaintop where the man sends out a series of birds to find dry land. He eventually lets all the people and the animals free and sacrifices to the god that saved him. Now, although these details sound like they were taken directly from the book of Genesis, you'll find the same information in the story of U in the Epic of G. I'm still just using the first letters so I don't butcher these names. Moving on. Next, I'm not going to read all this for you. You can pause the video and read it for yourself. But this just shows some striking similarities between some verses in Proverbs versus another book that was written earlier. And on we go. You can also pause this and read for yourself, but there are striking similarities between the Book of the Dead and the Ten Commandments, and the Book of the Dead came out first. More in part 3. Part 3 of how Christianity borrowed from other religious texts. You can also pause this and read for yourself, but it's basically saying how the Canaanite religion had numerous influences on Judaism. Psalm 29 is a hymn that bears so much similarity to U, the language of the Canaanites' poetry, that some believe that it was originally a hymn to Baal. Today, scholars agree that the Israelites emerged from a Canaanite civilization in the early part of the 2nd millennium BC. Moving on. You can pause this and read it on your own, but here's another example of how the book of Isaiah is copying off of another book that was written before Isaiah. Onward. This part talks about how Zoroastrianism was the first time that people were talking about angels and demons, and they also used this halo effect that you see in a lot of the Christian art. It was borrowed from them. Also, Zoroastrianism came up with the idea of heaven and hell. More in part 4. Part 4 of how Christianity borrowed from other religions. While the New Testament definitely mentions the concepts of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, it makes no actual mention of the word Trinity, and there is still some contention as to whether the Trinity Godhead is a biblical theme. Judaism teaches pure monotheism, while Catholicism favors the Trinity concept. Yet it is clearly a concept that was influenced by pagan religions existing at the time that Christianity came about. Examples of pagan trinities are, and then you can read all these. Moving on to Jesus himself. Here are some examples from other religions, and you can pause and read this at your own time, about virgin births. And there are actually so many stories of resurrections in other religions, I don't even have time to go into it. Some of them even after 3 days. So you might be asking, Kay, what does it all mean? Well, I'll tell you in part 5. Part 5 of Christianity borrowing from other religions. So does this disprove the existence of God? No. In fact, the fact that there are so many people that have such similar stories should probably make you have more faith in the existence of a God. I'm not trying to sit here and convince you that God doesn't exist or that your religion is wrong. So what point am I trying to make? I'm trying to spread tolerance. You might know God, feel God's presence, firmly believe in Him with all your heart and soul. What I am saying is that you have no right to walk around telling other people that the way you worship God or believe in God is the only one that is correct. Christianity is not this original idea, and other people telling slightly different stories is no reason to tell them that they're wrong or they're going to hell. Respect one another. Embrace the similarities rather than the differences. And if you believe in God, think that maybe, just maybe, there can be different ways to go about it.